Welcome back, everyone, to Buddhism Demystified, where we explore the intricate world of Buddhist teachings and make them relatable to your everyday life. Today, we're going on a deep dive into something a bit paradoxical.
Oh, paradoxical. I'm intrigued.
It is the idea of non-attachment,
Okay.
even to the teachings themselves.
So using the teachings to understand when to let go of the teaching.
Precisely.
That's fascinating.
It is. Imagine you're climbing a mountain
Okay.
and you're relying on a map.
Yeah.
The map is essential.
Right.
Absolutely. But is there a point where clinging to that map
Mm-hmm.
actually prevents you from reaching the peak?
That's a good point.
So that's the kind of territory we're going to explore today.
I see.
We're going to use a key Buddhist parable, the parable of the raft,
Okay.
to understand this concept
Sounds good.
and see how it applies to all of our lives. Before we jump in, though, if you're finding these deep dives valuable, we would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps others discover the podcast. And join our community of curious minds.
We appreciate all the support. It really keeps us going.
It does.
So, let's get into this parable of the raft. Imagine a traveler who needs to cross a river. There's no bridge, no boat. So he gathers materials and builds a raft to get to the other side.
So the river, in this parable, symbolizes the challenges and uncertainties we face in life, the journey towards greater understanding
Right.
and liberation.
Okay.
And the traveler, well, it's each one of us, navigating the twists and turns of life's journey.
I like that.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Once the traveler reaches the other shore, he doesn't carry the raft on his back, does he?
No, he doesn't. He leaves it behind.
Exactly.
That's really the core message of this parable,
It is.
the raft. Just like the teachings of the Buddha, what we call the Dharma, served its purpose.
It helped him cross the river,
Right.
overcome that challenge.
Exactly. And in the same way, the Dharma, the teachings, are meant to guide us towards a state of greater awareness, clarity, and freedom. But they're not meant to be clung to forever.
So what does this mean for us practically? The parable of the raft is saying that even teachings that have helped us grow, that have helped us progress,
Yeah.
might need to be released at some point.
That's exactly right. It's like you don't need the raft once you've reached the other shore.
Right.
You shouldn't become so attached to the form of the teachings that you forget their ultimate purpose. And their purpose is to guide us towards a direct experience of reality, beyond concepts and doctrines.
Think about it. Have you ever held on to an idea or a belief, even though it was no longer serving you well? Maybe a habit, a way of thinking, or even a relationship that had run its course.
Yeah. We've all been there, holding on even when it causes us pain, or prevents us from moving forward.
Yeah. The parable of the raft invites us to ask, could letting go have opened us up to new possibilities, to greater freedom and growth?
This parable really highlights the core teaching in Buddhism. True freedom lies beyond attachment to any concept, any doctrine, even the ones that have helped us along the way.
It's about recognizing when a teaching has served its purpose and having the wisdom to let go.
Yeah. The raft, the Dharma, it's like a ladder. You need each rung to reach the top. But once you're there, do you keep clinging to the ladder, or do you let go and enjoy the view?
It's a good point. The teachings are meant to elevate our understanding, to point us towards something greater, but they're not the destination themselves. To illustrate this point a bit further, let's look at a story about a monk and his journey to a mountain peak.
Okay. I like stories.
This monk was given a map by his master to guide him to the summit, where enlightenment awaited. He followed the map meticulously, clinging to it for every step. But as he neared the top, he encountered another monk who laughed and asked, "Why are you still carrying the map? Look around. The path is clear."
Oh, wow.
The young monk hesitated. He was afraid to let go of the map, afraid to trust his own senses.
Thanks.
But he eventually realized that the map had served its purpose. He could now trust his own direct experience to guide him the rest of the way.
That's a really nice story.
It's a good one. And it captures that fear that we often feel when letting go of something familiar, even when it might be holding us back from truly experiencing what's right in front of us.
It's like clinging to that map when you've already reached the summit.
Exactly. Both the parable of the raft and the story of the monk highlight the importance of flexibility and humility in our approach to teachings.
It's about allowing our direct experience to deepen our understanding, to go beyond the intellectual concepts.
Now, while the Buddhist teachings are invaluable, we have to be careful not to cling to them too rigidly.
I see what you mean.
If we treat them as
Yeah.
absolute truths.
It can create a kind of spiritual dogma.
Right. And that can actually limit our openness to new insights and perspectives.
Yeah.
It can stop us from seeing the world with fresh eyes. Think of it like someone who's completely attached to their daily routine. Routines can be helpful, but if you hold on too tightly, you might miss out on those spontaneous opportunities.
Or resist necessary change.
Exactly. The wisdom of the parable of the raft encourages us to constantly question our beliefs, to ask ourselves, are these beliefs still serving my growth? Or is it time to let go and make room for something new?
It's about cultivating a sense of openness, curiosity, and recognizing that our understanding is always evolving.
That's a great point.
It's like carrying a lantern in the dark. It's essential when you can't see, but once the sun rises, you don't need to keep clinging to it.
Right. In fact, holding on to that lantern might prevent you from fully experiencing the brilliance of daylight.
Precisely. Similarly, once we gain clarity through the teachings, we should set aside our attachment to them and embrace a wider, more direct awareness.
So, to illustrate this point further, I want to share a story about a sage and a visitor.
Oh, I'm all ears.
The visitor, eager to learn, arrived at the sage's home, carrying numerous books, brimming with doctrines and teachings. As the sage poured tea for his guest, he noticed the visitor was constantly referencing his books, quoting passages, emphasizing his knowledge.
Sounds like he was pretty attached to those books, to the teachings they contained.
He was. The sage continued pouring the tea, until the visitor's cup overflowed.
Oh no.
"Stop," the visitor exclaimed. "The cup is too full." The sage smiled and replied, "Yes, just like your mind. It's so full of teachings that there's no room for new understanding."
That's a powerful image. I mean, we can become so fixated on what we think we know that we close ourselves off to fresh insights and experiences.
Exactly. The visitor, struck by the sage's wisdom, put his books aside and chose to listen with an open heart, ready to receive new understanding.
That's beautiful. This story reminds us of the importance of emptying our cups, our minds, to make space for direct experience and genuine learning.
It's a call to step back from that constant influx of information and doctrines and create space for quiet reflection, inner knowing.
So we've got the parable of the raft, the monk and the map, the lantern in the daylight, and now the sage's overflowing cup. These all point to a fundamental principle in Buddhism, the practice of non-attachment.
It's about recognizing when something has served its purpose and having that wisdom, the courage to let it go, even if it's something as valuable as a spiritual teaching.
Because ultimately, true liberation lies in our ability to experience reality directly, without being burdened by rigid beliefs and doctrines.
It's about trusting our own inner compass, our own direct experience of the world.
Letting go allows us to see the world with fresh eyes, to be more present and respond to life's challenges with more clarity and flexibility.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the parable of the raft and the concept of non-attachment, what are some key takeaways that we can apply to our own lives?
I think the parable of the raft teaches us. Well, it teaches us to honor the teachings, to use them as valuable tools for our growth, but to also know when it's time to let go. You know, just as that traveler leaves the raft behind after crossing the river, we also have to be willing to release our attachment to those beliefs and doctrines when they've served their purpose.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that this journey of understanding, it's an ongoing process, and sometimes letting go is necessary to keep growing.
Exactly. Holding on to outdated beliefs or teachings can really hold us back.
Yeah.
And prevent us from embracing new insights.
Remember that monk who clung to the map, even when the path to the summit was clear?
Yeah.
We can all fall into that trap sometimes, holding on to familiar beliefs, even when they're no longer serving us.
It's like insisting on using a map of Paris when you're trying to navigate Tokyo.
Exactly. The parable of the raft encourages us to question, to reflect, and to be willing to let go when necessary.
It's a beautiful teaching.
It is. It's about trusting our own inner wisdom, allowing direct experience to be our guide.
Embracing that dynamic nature of life and understanding, recognizing that what might have been helpful at one point might need to be released to make room for new growth.
So, as you go about your day today, I invite you to reflect. What rafts might you be clinging to in your own life? Could letting go of certain beliefs, habits, even relationships lead to greater freedom, a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you?
It's definitely a question worth pondering.
It is.
And as always, the journey of exploration and discovery continues.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the parable of the raft and the wisdom of non-attachment. We'll be back next week with another fascinating exploration of Buddhist thought. Until then, keep those minds curious and those hearts open.
And don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with anyone who you think might benefit from these teachings.
See you next time on Buddhism Demystified.